Hyperobjects occupy a high-dimensional phase space. In other words, we can only see pieces of them at a time. The reason why they appear non-local and temporally foreshortened is precisely because of this transdimensional quality. If an apple were to invade a 2D world, first the stick people would see some dots as the bottom of the apple touched their universe. Then a rapid succession of shapes would appear like an expanding and contracting circular blob, diminishing to a tiny circle, possibly a point, and disappearing. What we experience as a lava lamp fluidity, flowing and oozing metaphors abound in the new materialism, for instance, is precisely a symptom of our less than adequate perception of higher dimensions of structure, which is where the hyperobjects live. That's why you can't see global warming. You would have to occupy some high-dimensional space to see it unfolding explicitly. Think of a daffodil. A daffodil flower is a three-dimensional map of an algorithm executed by DNA and RNA in the daffodil's genome. The tips of the crinkly stem show the latest state of the algorithm's unfolding in 3D space. The base of the flower is a plot of the beginnings of the flower algorithm. Your face is a map of everything that happened to it. Now think of global warming. We only see snapshots of what is actually a very complex plot of a super complex set of algorithms executing themselves in a high-dimensional phase space. When the weather falls on your head, you're experiencing a bad photocopy of a piece of that plot. What you once thought was real turns out to be a sensual representation, a thin slice of an image, a caricature of a piece of global climate. Thinking of things as nature is thinking of them as more or less static, or metastable, continuity bounded by time and space. The classic image of nature is the romantic or picturesque painting of a landscape. There it is, over yonder, on the wall or in the gallery. And it has over yonderness encoded throughout it. Look at those distant hills, that branch suggesting that we follow the perspective lines towards the vanishing point, and so on. Then I suppose we could animate this picture and produce some kind of oozing, flowing, lava-lampy version of the same thing. I'm quite suspicious of these new and improved versions of nature, which simply turn the static picture into a flowing picture. Something remains the same. This would be the sense of time as a container. The picture appears complex, cinematic, Deleuzian. Deleuze theorizes cinema beautifully. No accident. But this kind of cinematic flow had already been anticipated in the Romantic period. In an age before the silver screen, huge swathes of blank verse narrating the flow of the subject opened up an ideological space in which cinema could appear. Wordsworth is the first cinematic artist. The cool theorists of this kind of process relationism, as it's called, Whitehead, Deleuze, don't really explain time. Time is a liquid in which the image melts and flows. It's very cool, possibly retro cool, I don't know. But the best it can do is to track hyperobjects. Think of that movie about Burtynsky, Manufactured Landscapes. The camera tracks processes of production and the piling of e-waste and so on. The pathos of that incredible opening shot is precisely the pathos of a gaze floating through time. We have no idea when the shot will finish, and concurrently just how enormous the factory is. From cinema we move to plots and maps of algorithms in phase space. This is what enormously powerful processors can now do when they map climate. Now, what the software is really seeing really does exit from the world of the aesthetic container and aesthetic distance, since we're no longer dealing with time or space as containers, but including time and space as dimensions of the high-dimensional phase space. Time is now radically inside objects, rippling through them, as I argued a while back, and space is inside objects, differentiating their parts from one from the other. The trouble is, of course, that we're not seeing it ourselves anymore. Computers see it for us then we see the data or slices of that phase space rendered in some way to make it usable. The panic and denial and right-wing absurdity about global warming is entirely justified. The whole thing, from the phenomenon itself to the ways which we have to see it, or rather have it seen, are profoundly threatening to individualism, nationalism, anti-intellectualism, racism, speciesism, anthropocentrism, you name it. Possibly even capitalism itself. We'll see fairly shortly whether capitalism is up for the job.